Back with another episode of Get the Guac, and joining me is Derrick Synder, owner and vice president of EMC Home Improvements. We're going to talk about renovations, house projects, and a couple other things. Derrick, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I know Derrick personally, full disclosure, and Derrick is actually helping me and my wife with a project in our house. So for what it's worth, I can speak to the quality of craftsmanship. But more about you, Derrick, and more about EMC. So EMC Home Improvements, local company, Harford County, been around for 50 plus years.
Yep.
Can you tell a little bit about the start and how your involvement and what it looks like today?
Yeah, so the business started back in 1967 by my wife's grandfather. They were masons by trade. And then his son, my father-in-law, took it over. And then my brother actually started dating his daughter, which then introduced me to my wife. So then my brother and I ended up marrying sisters. So now we own the company, and we started, like I said, masonry was our first trade, and then we got more into the home improvement side about 21 years ago.
Now, I'm a numbers guy. Mason, that's stonework.
Yeah, brickwork, stonework, blockwork, foundations, things like that. And we basically were a Harford County based mason company, and we did a lot of work for the local builders in the area, and that's what we learned. And then winters got tough and can't work in the winter as much, and rain affects you. And
Right.
My brother and I just wanted to take the business in a different direction, so we kind of took it that way and haven't looked back.
It's mostly residential.
Yep.
What's the bread and butter? Not that these are the only projects you work on, but what's...
Kitchens, bathrooms, basements, pretty much any remodel that you need done, additions. But I'd say probably kitchens, bathrooms is probably the thing we do the most, especially now. We do decks, like I said, we do decks, patios, we do it all. But for the most part, it's mostly kitchens, baths, basements, but at really anything that you need to your house, done.
Now, having a business that lasts 50 years is impressive. What do you think what are the principles that have been passed down from generations that have allowed you to endure what has been several challenging markets? You got inflation going up in 2020, 08 was a disaster. What are some of those things that have helped you guys continue to be successful?
Well, we were taught, from my father-in-law and my grandfather-in-law that, you just want to treat people the way that you want to be treated. So it's just about being, honest with people, and we're not out here getting rich overnight. Like there's a lot of fly-by-night companies that'll come in and they'll get you done and, take your money and run, where I'd rather give someone something to make sure it's done properly and correct than do it the other way. So that's kind of how I feel. So
I had someone give me the advice years ago, you want to leave some meat on the bone.
Right.
Maybe there's an uninformed homeowner and they're not sophisticated and they have more money than they know what to do with, but you never want to take advantage of people. You want to leave some meat on the bone because you're referral based.
All referral based.
Right. I don't see a bunch of EMC billboards. It's word of mouth. It's quality work that people like to share with friends. And
100%.
So EMC is a family business. How is that working with family?
It can be it can be rough at times. No, my brother and I, we get along great.
Just make sure you don't touch his drum set and you guys are
correct.
Cool.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, but we both, I would say we thrive off each other. I think he has his lane and he stays in it, and I have my lane and I stay in it. But together, I think we've been doing this. Just him and I have been doing this, like I said, since 2005. My father-in-law was still working at the time, but we kind of took the home improvement stuff and ran with it, and we've pretty successful. But we have our ups and downs. There are times where you might walk in a room and hear some things, but it's all fun.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So yeah.
So we were talking a little bit before we started recording about some of the renovations. You mentioned kitchens, bathrooms, and you had some rules of thumb. So let's say I'm in my forever home because I have my forever mortgage,
right?
3%. I think a lot of people now are just making the house. I'm not moving and giving up this rate, so let me make this what I want to live in for a while. What's a good rule of thumb if I'm looking at a kitchen? kitchen hasn't been done in 20, 30, maybe more years. What's the rule of thumb for what my budget expectation should be?
I always tell people the good rule of thumb for kitchens are like 15% the value of your home is a good place to start.
Right.
I mean, give or take, depending on what you do, but I always tell people that's a good rule of thumb to start because most of the time you're getting into more than just your cabinets and your countertops. There's always lighting, there's flooring, there's, maybe you're taking a wall out that might need be a load-bearing wall to make the space what you want. So
Right.
I always tell people that's a good place to start, and then, we kind of roll from there, and if that's a good place, then I'll come out and we can kind of go from there.
What are some things in the kitchen? So moving load-bearing walls, like what really jacks up the rate that surprises homeowners that don't know much about this stuff?
So a lot of times when we're doing these projects, we redesign the kitchen in a way where not everything is in the same location. So like sometimes you have to move gas lines or plumbing, to make the new sink or, range, things like that work. So which, sometimes it's not as easy as just, let me just drill a new hole and pull a pipe through. So it's, sometimes you're moving it 20 feet across the room. So just that kind of stuff adds, cost, because then you might have to cut into things in the basement to access said line or do it from above with the subfloor.
Right.
So that kind of stuff. So it's always, there's a lot of moving pieces. And with load-bearing walls, you have to put in the proper beam system, which is, they're not cheap, they're expensive. So it's just, it's a lot of prep work.
And you got to do it right.
Yes, or correct. So, and usually we bring in our engineer to give us a load calculation because there's different sizes of, they're called LVLs for the beams, and and they're, sometimes you can get away with smaller ones, and maybe less. Sometimes you need the bigger ones and maybe more for the thickness, depending on what the load calculations of the house. So we always do it right and get an engineer involved to make sure that it's done properly. And
so moving electric, plumbing, gas lines, load-bearing walls, that's the stuff that's going to sneak up in the budget and potentially bite you.
Yeah, because when you get into the load-bearing wall, now all of a sudden you're probably having to do all your floors. So if you're taking a wall out, floors, you got to patch in where the wall was. So usually then you're getting into the floors, and a lot of times that turns into the whole first floor. It's not just a room. It's not always, but sometimes.
And then bathrooms, a basic tub, shower, hallway bathroom. What's the ballpark in 2026 for basic without getting all the extras?
I tell people you should usually 20 to 25, and I'd say 20 if you're going to keep a shower curtain. If you want glass, even on the tub, you're probably getting closer to 25. That'd be my guess.
What do most people pick, curtain or glass for
with
a tub?
With a tub, most of the time people are still going curtain because they don't need it for the tub. Any shower, it's been a while since I've done a curtain on a shower. I will say that. So
no one's dropping 5 to 6 figures on a curtain shower standalone.
Correct.
I can see that.
Yes.
Not that you're a realtor, but are people making these improvements and saying this is improving the value of my home, or how much does that weigh into decision making?
So kitchens and baths are definitely where you can really increase the value of your home.
You get the most bang for your buck. Not 100 cents on the dollar, but you might get 70 or 80 cents.
I think so. I mean, but you also got to take into account, even if it's not your forever home, if you're going to, I try to tell people, all right, yes, you might spend, let's just call it, 100 grand, 50, 100 grand on a kitchen, whatever. If you're going to live there for 10 years, you got to look at the value of getting to use it as well. It's not just about spending the money and trying to make money back on your money that you spent when you sell it. You get the enjoyment of the product that you just spent money on as well. So you got to weigh all options, and I try to tell people that because I get asked a lot. Well, this isn't my forever home, and I don't want to put that kind of money in it. And I say, but if you live here for 10 years, think of where else are you going to think about that? 10 years, break the price down. It's it's worth it, in my opinion. So
well, your home is where you're going to be a lot of the time, and you want it to be comfortable. And if you have the disposable income to do it, in my financial planning brain, I can't turn it off. Like, I've definitely talked to some people about crazy projects. I'm
right.
Like, I don't know that I would advise that, but I think a lot of people justify overspending with I'll get it back when I sell it. Well, right. Yeah, but you made it hyper specific. You did pink cabinets. I just don't think that there's going to be a buyer pool that's willing to pay top dollar for that specific thing. So a lot of people, as I mentioned, are in their homes, and a lot of our clients have we work with all ages, but they have parents that are aging and they're trying to figure out what to do. If we're going to build on, because at least folks in Harford County or folks with land, you can add an in-law suite or something like that. What advice would you give to someone considering that? Do we buy a house that's already done, or do we build on to the existing home?
So there's two options. Depending on what the county will allow, building on is not always an option for you.
Right.
So I mean, if it needs to be on like the same floor, like a one level, because obviously the folks, people are getting older, they can't use stairs. You don't want to just shove them in a basement, right? So
Right.
but it's if the county will allow you, it all depends on what you're trying to get out of it. I've done some in-law suites where it's just the in-law suite, but then I've also, like I did one last year where it was an in-law suite with a garage because the son wanted more garage space to go. So it was kind of like a combo project.
Right.
But like as you talk about income, they obviously had the ability to do so. Not everybody has that, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's a quick turnaround, and we need like space,
Right.
So it's just a matter of what is the best value in your mind is what you get out of it. So sometimes I tell people, I've met with people when we've told them, I don't think this is going to be this isn't what you want to do. Maybe try to find a bigger home or something that already has,
Right.
but we're honest. I'm not going to try to upsell you on something that I don't find necessary. I've talked myself out of work a lot because I don't
Doing right by people.
Correct.
In our world, we call it a fiduciary capacity,
Yeah.
where you put the client's interest ahead of your own.
Yeah, 100%.
And the funny thing, when you do that, more people are knocking down your door because they know you're not going to,
Right.
You're going to look out for them. Like,
Right.
I'm on the same side of the table as you. I want what's best for you. And if I do that, then I'll be taken care of.
Correct.
Like Karma will, or whatever
Yep.
scorekeeping system you use.
Correct.
You get rewarded in ways you don't say. What's the farthest location for a project?
So I stay out of DC. I really want to stay on. I won't say never, but I like to try to stay on like this side of the tunnel. I try my best to stay out of Baltimore just because of just timing, my crews, getting there.
Logistics.
Right. Exactly. Just getting there myself is just hard because I'm so busy with everything. It's a lot of time. I did a job in DC, and when I'm down there, I'm losing a whole day by going down there, and I
Right.
just don't have the time for that. We're so busy up here in Harford County, Baltimore County, Cecil County. That's kind of where I'd like to stay, but
There's enough work.
Yeah. Never say never. There's never, you don't ever say never to money, but
Right. A unique circumstance and an interesting project.
Right. Yeah.
that-
Referral based project, maybe. Like, if it's an existing client, say, would you go down here and do this for me? Yeah, I might,
So let's say I'm someone that's interested in doing a project.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I call EMC first. But if I am somebody that's not in that area, maybe out of state, because we have clients all over, what are things you would recommend to a homeowner to ask of a potential contractor as they're trying to pick the right person for the project?
I would always tell them to ask if they're, first of all, licensed, insured. Are they using proper electricians, proper plumbers, like that are also licensed and insured?
And in Maryland, is that MHIC
Yep,
license
yep,
number? So that
correct.
says they're legit.
Yeah, correct. And MHIC tells you that, yes, they are a legit contractor to having, because they've done the proper testing and proper, due diligence to become a legit contractor. There's a lot of guys that don't, do that, and they can, I hate saying, undercut guys like me to
Right.
do that, but they also don't have the overhead like I have. But
So licensing, bonding, what are some other questions I'm asking as I'm interviewing contractors?
like what kind of materials do you like to use? What kind of, what are you recommending for the space? I always like when people ask me my opinion up front about like what I think. I always like to lead with like, what is your vision? But then I like when they say, this is our vision, but we really don't know what we're doing. So then they ask me, and I can try to steer them in the right direction. So I always think it's good to have a little bit of an idea of what you want before you call a contractor.
Right.
It's helpful to the contractor to know, instead of just saying, come out here, and tell us what we need. It's nice to,
Right.
because it kind of, we feed off each other, right? We can feed off each other when you tell me what you want, then I can say, okay, and then I might ask you why, like, why do you want that?
Right.
But, then I can tell, and then I'll tell you why, because I'll be honest with you, and sometimes people want things that I think are just not feasible. You tell them, there's anything can be done with time and money, but sometimes it just ain't, it's not worth it.
The
It's
juice
just,
isn't worth the
yeah,
squeeze.
it's correct. You're just not worth it. So you got to and I try to tell people, let's take a step back, and maybe we can give you kind of what you want on a lower capacity, but it still accomplishes the end game, but for a much cheaper cost. So
We'll get you 90% of the way there. It's going to cost you half as much.
Right.
Those numbers start to sound better.
correct, 100%.
Do you go in and finish projects that other contractors have started? What happens there? And not that you have to talk about specific ones or specific companies, but I think that is not totally common, but common enough.
Yes, but a lot of times I will want to at least get it back to a starting point that I feel comfortable with. Let's put it that way. Like, I don't want to I will never go in and just finish something not knowing what's behind the curtain. Like,
right.
It's per se. So it's just, I have to know, because I want to be able to sleep at night. I don't want to get into a he said, she said of like, was it my fault?
If you're going to stamp your name on
Correct.
it, you need to make sure from start to finish the
Correct.
whole thing's to your standard.
Correct.
What goes wrong with the contractor that there's a messy divorce or a ghosting? Like what's typical that people can be aware of to try to look out for? Red flags or paying too much up front or what?
No, to be honest, I almost think it's maybe the opposite. I hate saying it like that. I think getting a deposit up front is at least for me, a good thing, because I'm also usually providing a product that costs a lot of money. Like when I do a kitchen, I take enough money up front, but all your cabinets get paid for from jump. Before I step foot in your house after we've ordered cabinets, you
right.
know that when those cabinets arrive, they're done, they're paid for. So I think when people, also think when you have guys that are showing up and they do like a little bit of work one day and then they leave for 5 weeks, and
don't text back.
Right? Yeah, it's communication is key. Communication is so key. And I'm an over communicator. I always tell my clients, you're probably going to be annoyed by me by the time we're done this, but you're always going to know what's going on, when we're coming.
Right.
If we're not coming, there's not going to be any surprises. So that's just, and I think
Right.
that's a huge, and from what I've been told from a lot of my clients who have dealt with other people in the past, is they've thanked me for that. They're like, hey, we really appreciate, even if it's just a simple text saying, hey, reminder, guys are going to be there in the morning at such and such a time.
That's huge.
It's just, because everybody's busy. You don't always remember. And
I'm fighting to figure out what dinner's going to be.
Exactly.
That isn't
Yeah.
just fast food and spend time with the kids, and
Yep.
by the time the day's over it's 9:30 and my eyes are
closing.
I can't keep them open.
Yeah. The biggest thing for me is I have to try to remember, because of family time, I have to try to remember that there has to be a cutoff. If I know that they're the type of client I can't get a hold of the next day because they're at their job, I might respond at night just to accommodate them. I pride myself on customer service. Me and my brother both. Like I said, we like just making sure, I want everybody happy at the end of the job. That's all I want. I want to be able to walk away, have you all be happy, because I want you to tell your neighbor and them to tell their neighbor, and because that's how we operate.
Derrick, I remember when we were building this office, it was 2022. And that every time I went to meet with a contractor, the price had jumped significantly. And he's showing me the subcontractors, and it was materials, it was inflation. That
Right.
was when inflation was running rampant. He said, he gave me a piece of advice that I thought was interesting. I'm curious your take. He said, I know it's more expensive than it was yesterday, but if you wait and do it in the future, it will only be more expensive. It will never be cheaper than it is today.
He's right on that. As far as yes, because it's material. Like when COVID hit, all the materials went sky high, and everybody said, we're going to wait because materials are going to come back down. He's right. It never did. It might have flatlined for a while, but it's never going to go back down. It's only even after it flatlines, then it's just going to jump. And
you heard that in real estate. Well, once this craziness is over and housing prices go down, the one thing I've observed with inflation is once it goes up, it might not go up anymore at that same level, but it is not going down.
Never.
Now TVs get cheaper, but other than that, I think everything else is getting more expensive.
I agree with you on that. That's where TVs are.
They're disposable now. It's it's broken.
Buy a new one, right?
I get another one for a couple $100.
Yep.
Probably works better than
it's
the
crazy.
other one.
It's crazy how that is.
But I think a lot of people can also talk themselves into projects that maybe they shouldn't be doing or doing bigger, because they'll say things like, well, increase the value of my home, or it's only going to be more expensive in the future. And a lot of times we just give ourselves these justifications for some overspending. But when it comes to starting a project, doing a basement, doing something like this, it's really cash. There's, outside of some national disconnected potential contractor, I don't even know if one such exists. We're always local, but people are paying cash. And if they don't have the cash, then housing prices have gone up. Likely that you have some equity in your home. The rates are not as low as they were during COVID times, but they're not painful as much as they were. Is that where a lot of people mix between cash and home equity loans? Is that how most people are paying for these?
For my stuff, yeah, it's usually all cash based, or they've gone out and gotten themselves a home equity line of credit, and kind of it's how they fund it. A lot of times they'll get me to come quote it, and then they're honest with me and they say, hey, look, I need to get a loan for this. Once we secure the loan, we'll call you back and get back in touch. Yeah. And I always just have to say, like, going back to what you said about inflation, like, as long as it's not too long, it should be fine. But right. If one of my
we're 18 months later,
right,
materials could be out of my control.
Correct.
So there's a variable to be aware of.
Correct. And I'm usually on par with most, I think, contractors in the area. I give a 30-day guarantee to my cost, and then after that we revisit. And if somebody gets back to me and nothing's changed, then we're good, But if things have changed, then we just adjust accordingly.
That's the world.
Unfortunately, it's just the nature of the beast.
What are some of the favorite parts of projects? Do you guys love putting a different type of tile design in a shower, or a certain type of range hood, but what are some things that are exciting where you're like, oh, I like what I do, but this is even more fun?
I really, really enjoy, like, I'm doing a basement right now, and this client is doing a really, really cool TV built out space with we're doing an electric fireplace in it. She's using that, and it's very popular. You actually have it on your front wall, that accordion looking, and we're doing that, like, where the fireplace is going, and then we're gonna have some, like, custom wood tops made for the built-ins to sit on top, and then we're doing arched built-ins, which with light. So it's really cool. I love seeing, like, that's really, to me, those are, like, I like wow factors, and I think that's a wow. Like you said, hoods. I've done a couple kitchens in the past few years where we've done these custom wood hoods, and yes, they're not cheap because you can just go buy a regular stainless steel type hood if you'd like, and that's fine, which most people do. But
right.
You get some clients who want that wow factor when you walk in their kitchen, and they have some really, really beautiful hoods, and I think just stuff like that is really, really cool. Like, specialty trim, board and batten walls,
How fun is it to see the homeowner's reaction to a completed project?
Fun. I like it especially when they're happy, which in my case is, I'd say 99% of the time. I don't think very rarely do we have a client that's not happy, but and even if they aren't, I usually make them happy by the time it's done. So
I mean, everybody loves HGTV. And we all love the extreme house makeover and that grand reveal where the thing gets moved. Yep. You get to do that on, like, a weekly or regular basis.
Yeah, which is fun, and it's a lot of fun, and it's fun doing. You go from one house to the next, and not every house is the same. Even though sometimes you put the same cabinetry in a different house, it still looks different when it's done, because not very rarely do my clients pick the same materials. There's always something.
Every day's new.
Yeah.
Every kitchen's different.
Well, like your bathroom at your house that I'm doing right now, I've never seen the tiles that you guys show, and I love them. I think
me either.
They're so cool. Like, the arch niche, like the recessed niche.
Yeah.
That was just like I said, wow factor. I walked in, I saw it done, after my tile guy was finished with it, and I was like, man, this looks really, really cool.
It's funny, I make, like, high-powered decisions on behalf of other people and myself on a daily basis, but man, when it comes to picking tile or finishes for interior things, I am so lost. It helps being married to an interior designer, complementary skills.
Yes.
But I'm like, I think it looks good, but I don't know until I see it. And once you see it, you're not redoing it. That is what it is.
Right.
It's too much pressure.
Oh, that's, I'll be honest, that is something that comes up a lot with my client. They're, oh my God, I need help. And we have a good team in place, and we can usually help guide you in the right direction. Like I said, it's always good to have a little bit of knowledge of what you want in the beginning, but we can kind of steer you in the right direction to give you that product in the end, of what you're looking for.
Finish this sentence for me. Homeowners would save themselves a lot of stress if they just blank.
Let me do my job.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me do my job and finish it, and just, go to work. Go to work, and when you come home, you'll be happy.
Yeah, you don't go into the surgery room or say, hey, no anesthesia, I want to see what's going on, so I give you tips while you're taking my appendix out.
Right. Exactly.
Let them cook.
Yeah.
Let them do the thing. No, that makes sense. Trust the process.
Right.
Trust the process. Well, I think that goes back to, don't go for the cheapest price. A lot of times you pay for what you get. Value is what you should be shopping for, and somebody that's dependable, that's going to do the right job. And if you do that, then you don't need to stand over them. That's part of what the value that you're getting.
Right.
Hire the right person, and then I think your life will be much easier.
And that's how I sell myself when I first meet with clients. I tell them, because a lot of times I get asked, are you going to be the one doing the work? And I said, I'm not actually going to be swinging the hammers or on my hands and knees, but I'm here usually every day.
Right.
I'm sometimes multiple times a day checking in, making sure everything's good. And I would never bring someone into your home that I wouldn't allow in my own home. And you just need, like you said, trust the process.
It's my work that I stand behind.
Correct.
Whether I swing the hammer or not is irrelevant.
Correct. 100%. And that's always sometimes that's hard to get through to people up front because they, I guess in my industry, they still like the guys that still do the work every day.
Right.
But it's not always the best way to be because there's a lot of great, like my team, there's a lot of great guys who just want to be the behind the scenes doing all the work.
Right.
And
they don't want to be on podcasts.
Correct.
Or
God, no.
shaking hands and kissing babies out there.
No, they do not.
They
They don't want to do all that. They just want to go in, do the work, and then say, look what I did today. And then I'm like, that's fantastic. What you did today was fantastic because you keep it up and people keep calling and you can keep doing it for other people. That's right. Keep the cycle moving.
So home improvement's not the only thing that you have going on. We'll start on the lighter side of things. You've started building homes.
I have.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So my brother and myself and my father started a company called 4G Properties, and we started doing it more we tried to get in the flip game back in like 2017, and then did a few, got a couple rentals, but then we were like, we could really, it'd be fun to build like a brand new house. So we started looking for lots and we found a lot and we built a house in Bel Air, and it was fun because it's basically like remodeling from scratch and, from the ground up. Yeah. So, and we got to kind of be our own, and they've all but one has been a spec. I've out of the 5 that we've done now, they've all been specs. I had one that person bought the lot for me and we built them a house, from the ground up.
Right.
So it's kind of fun being the client, right? So because 4G internally uses EMC to build, 4G is just the builder, right? So,
right.
And they, and then EMC gets to come in and kind of do all of the actual work to the house. So we've been, like I said, we have 5 different models. Other than the first one, we've named them all after family members. Unfortunately, my brother's first wife passed away in 2017, and we've got a couple named after her. One is called the Jennifer model, one is called the Lee model, which is her middle name. We thought that was kind of cool because 4G kind of started also with my father's 4 grandkids. And we started it right when my sister-in-law was sick and kind of took her from there. So we got those. We got one named after my aunt called the Deborah model, and then my most recent one I'm doing right now, actually out on 543, is called the Evan Matthew model, and that's named after my son, who unfortunately passed away in 2023. We've had a lot of tragedy in our family, but we've still managed to keep the business afloat. A lot of families could fold, under pressure, and I feel like we've done pretty good. We've been throwing a lot of curveballs, and we've kept afloat. Like I said, we're not making a fortune out here, but we're doing something right. We've been in business a long time, and we know how to fight obstacles and keep moving. But
to continue to keep Evan's memory alive, you have a foundation.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we started a foundation called the Evan M. Snyder Foundation. 2 years we've had the foundation going, and we just got our first scholarship set up, and that people are applying for it now, and we will be giving out 2 scholarships out in his name to high school seniors in Harford County. We're just keeping it Harford County based because he went to Seamount Wright, and he loved his school, and he was a great student and an athlete. So
soccer player.
Yep, great soccer player. Loved golf was his other passion, and
so we have a golf tournament every year.
Yes.
What are the details for that?
So this year we're doing another one on June 1st at Winter's Run, and you can find all the information at es20.org. es20.org. Yep, and you can look up the website. All the links are there. If you're a senior graduating this year, I think the window is closing for the application process March 1st to give our board and committees enough time to review.
What are the criteria?
Basically, everybody. good work ethic, 3.5 GPA or higher. I know we're asking for letter of recommendation from a teacher, in the school. Just a good community, being part of the community, things like that. So yeah,
Well-rounded, balanced.
yeah, yes, a lot like my son.
Yeah.
A lot like my son was. That's the hope. Keep his memory alive. So
I think that's incredible. We did the golf outing last year, and it was so much fun.
hopefully it won't be as hot this year.
It was like 100 million degrees outside.
We moved it up a little bit, so we're hoping to get a little bit cooler weather. We'll see, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, it was definitely that's the most. Everybody said it was a great day, but too hot. It was brutal, and I can tell you it was a brutal hot day. But hopefully we'll be much better this year. Moving it up. So hopefully you guys can come back and partake again this year. So
Harford Retirement Planners will be there again. Thank you for sharing the business history, what to look for with home renovations, and the other causes that are so important to you, Derrick. This has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yep.